Welcome into the Sources Say podcast, your go-to Kentucky basketball and recruiting podcast on the growing KSR Podcast Network, presented by Club Blue. I'm your host, Jack Pilgrim. As always, here at a new location. We've been here a couple of times, but glad to be back. KS Bar and Grill alongside a familiar face. Zack Geoghegan, what's up, buddy?
I'm doing great, Jack. We just got done with Mark Pope's press conference. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that. We got some Colgate coming, some Louisville coming. Going to be a fun show. I love sitting up here. I feel just a little bit more important than I probably am when I'm sitting in this spot right here. So it's a nice vibes here in KS Bar today.
Well, we didn't want to do a full Colgate show because Colgate is Colgate, first of all. I did two there for my first of all.
First of all.
Not the most exciting matchup, an 11-point win where Kentucky gets up 17-0 in the first half. We kind of described it. Look, Colgate was one of the worst teams in college basketball. We kind of
looked like it for about 7 minutes.
We called it kind of a name-your-score type of game going in. Not a whole lot of positive takeaways beyond kind of just throwing a pity party, if we're being totally honest. Some cool outside storylines about the meaning behind the game, but in terms of the actual X's and O's, not a whole lot to love about Kentucky's matchup. And you saw that right away, 17-0. Kentucky looks like absolute world beaters. Colgate fails to score a single basket in the first 7 minutes of the game. They look terrible. It's an absolute disaster. And then just the tide just turns ever so slightly, almost entirely to a 2-point lead at halftime where Colgate starts making its shots. Kentucky's just lackadaisical, not showing a whole lot of fire, not showing a whole lot of emotion, and it leads to a 2-point lead at halftime. Colgate ends up taking the lead, and then they have to kind of
by 3 at one point.
Have to fight their way back, and it ends up being kind of just a ho-hum 11-point victory. Your takeaway leaving Rupp Arena from a couple days back?
My takeaway. I don't know if I have like an overall meaningful takeaway. I think one of the most interesting parts about that whole game, though, was in the post-game press conference, Colgate's head coach said that because it was like Colgate's zone is really what kind of started to stifle Kentucky and like really kind of make them sink in a little bit and maybe get off their block. And the energy levels, you can see, were kind of dipped a little bit whenever Colgate went into that zone, which happened right around their first basket. The Colgate coach said in the post-game press conference that the plan was to go to zone after makes. But you can't go to zone when you're down 17-0 in the first 7 minutes. So it wasn't until they made that first shot that they actually were able to go into their zone, and that's when the tide started to shift a little bit, and Kentucky got a little lackadaisical. Colgate made their run. They were down by 2 at halftime. They pretty much struck out fire at the first of the 4 or 5 minutes of that second half. Like I said, they went up by 3 as many, but then Kentucky struck back. They went on it was like a 15-point swing essentially with Trent Noah in the game. He was actually I did an article on Trent Noah. I noticed that he was kind of the beginning and the end of that 15-point swing where Kentucky ended up going up by 12, and then they went up by as many as like 18 points before ending up winning that game. But there was no Lamont Butler, no Kirk Kriisa, so we saw a lot more minutes of Jackson at point guard, which I thought were good. Still kind of, how much can you really take against a team like Colgate? Saw some Travis Perry minutes. They were maybe not as – they were actually, upon rewatch, they weren't as bad as I thought. But when he's not hitting threes, it's just kind of – he's not really doing good or bad, and you need him to hit threes to make him a positive out there. Some good Trent Noah minutes, some fun Brandon Garrison minutes as well. But yeah, there's really just not too much you can take from that sort of game. But it was fun overall, and it was a good crowd, I thought, for a random non-conference game in the middle of December on a Wednesday. So.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest talking point going into that, and I guess leaving Gonzaga, was great. We're excited. Let's celebrate the Gonzaga win. But what's the status of Lamont Butler? Mm-hmm. He ends up sitting the Colgate game, not a surprise. I think when you make the decision to say, all right, well, we're not going to put you in against the top 10 Gonzaga matchup, hostile environment, going out to Seattle.
You're not playing against Colgate.
If you're not doing that, then what difference does it make if you're going up against the second worst team on Kentucky's schedule in Colgate? So it was about adapting, figuring out what you have beyond Lamont Butler at point guard, especially with Kirk Kriisa out the next 6-ish weeks. We heard an update from Mark Pope where he said he's kind of will circle back in 10 days because Kirk Kriisa is Kirk Kriisa, and there's a chance that he wakes up one day and says, "Screw it, I'm ready to play." That's kind of
amazing for a lot of reasons.
If there's one guy that would be in a weird situation like that, it's Kerr, but he said Vegas odds would put it at about 6 weeks. So we know that's the case for his spot. With Lamont out, is Jackson good enough to kind of take things over until Lamont is back to 100%, and especially beyond Jackson, what do you get from the backup point guard spot? Is Travis Perry good enough? Do you have to just kind of be by committee with Otega getting some spot minutes, Kobe Brea bringing the ball up every once in a while? What was your kind of biggest takeaway in that regard, just the point guard dynamic, especially going into such a big matchup against Louisville?
I think we kind of saw that Travis Perry might just not be ready yet. Just the game is just a little bit too fast for him. He seems like he's not even a step behind, but maybe just like 2 steps behind. Like it's tough for him right now. Like Trent Noah was able to come in just and be productive because he's just such a bigger kid. Like he's taller. He's 6'6". Travis Perry is very generously listed at 6'1". You know, he's probably a little bit smaller than that, but Trent was able to use his size, impact his will a little bit. He made his 1-3, so that was good. But in terms of the overall point guard spot, you know, I really like what we see from Jackson. He kind of goes into like I wouldn't say pass first, but he definitely looks for the outlets a little bit more. He loves the hit-ahead passes. He loves to, try and sneak like a one-handed pass inside the paint and stuff like that. So it's fun to see him get to do that. Kobe Brea, I thought, has been really good at attacking out of the pick and roll, which is something that Lamont was really getting good at before he went down. And then I think even Pope mentioned today maybe giving more minutes to Owe at the 1 as well, which I'm not opposed to either because I think Owe is probably not a guy you'd want like as a full-time point guard, but I think in the spot minutes by committee thing, he can easily slide into that spot and at least be not a net negative.
So we moved past Colgate. It just was what it was. Shooting numbers were what they were. Got back above the 10 3-point make mark, which is kind of a number that we've all had in our heads of something that we've been trying to hit. So that's good.
And the 30% mark got above that too. Two
good
issues of the last 4 games.
A whole lot of just like, glad we were able to check that box. It was just a very good box.
Shout out to Kobe Brea for going 5 for 8.
That honestly saved the day there. But you can tell that was a sleepy matchup coming out of an emotionally charged win out in Seattle. And ahead of our first rivalry matchup, we got to talk to the players after the game, and you could tell their juice, that this is a matchup that they kind of had on their calendars and said, I want to be a part of this. We see the Tyler Ulis bleeding out of the eye. We've seen, DeMarcus Cousins throwing an elbow at Jared Swabshire. We've seen some of the hostile, kind of emotionally invested moments in the history of this rivalry, just as recently as Nate Sestina getting spat at by Chinanu Onuaku.
Yes.
They got to see that with their own 2 eyes. They were there in a suite watching the game. That was their first kind of welcome to the rivalry.
Can you imagine that being your first introduction to the rivalry?
No.
Man, am I going to get spit on in 5 months when we play this game in December?
I can't believe that was even real life.
It is a fever dream, it feels like. That was one of those nights where both of us afterwards were like, man, that happened, huh? But
it was fun. It was fun. So
aside from the point.
They knew that was coming, and they knew just what Colgate was as a team and what their analytics said and the record 2-8 coming in. They stunk. Moving past that, now we can push our chips into the Louisville game and what the rivalry means and what it stands for. I liked the tone coming out of that game with what the mindset was approaching the Louisville rivalry. I think they understand the magnitude of it. Pope, said, I don't really need to, tell them like, hey, I played 2 games back in the 90s and here was my experience. He's like, they don't need that. They've, been in college basketball for a long time. They have seen it from afar. Now it's their chance to feel it. And he said, honestly, it's just something that you have to experience yourself to know what it's like and to be a part of it. So he's like, that's something that's a trial by error. Experience it for yourself. So I think there is going to be some just kind of let's see what happens when the ball is tipped on Saturday.
Yeah, so like you said, we talked to a bunch of them after the Colgate game. Oddly enough, you've got guys like Amari Williams and Andrew Carr who have actually played against Pat Kelsey's College of Charleston teams over the year. Amari played him 4 times over
Winthrop, right?
No, College of Charleston.
One of them, who said that they played him at Winthrop?
No,
I think Andrew Carr said they played him at Winthrop.
No, because his first season, Pat Kelsey's first season at College of Charleston was 20-21, and that was their freshman years. I think I remember that, or I might have misspoke when I said that he was talking about Winthrop, because I'm not familiar with Pat Kelsey's coaching resume until the last 24 hours. I sure am now, though.
We are on top of it.
We're getting there now.
I'm telling you we're on top.
But I will tell you that Amari has played 4 games against those College of Charleston teams. He's played well in all of them. I think he averages almost a double-double. He had a 19-point game, a 20-point game in those. Andrew Carr had moderate success when he was with Delaware. So those were games when he was a sophomore. So you could you can almost throw those out a little bit because they're so long ago, and Andrew Carr's a completely different person. But so they have a lot of history playing against Pat Kelsey coached teams, which can maybe help, maybe not. You don't really know. We'll end up seeing, I guess, whenever it rolls out there, because I'm sure Kelsey's done some differences between them in the last 3 or 4 years. But Pope today is both these head coaches are being almost too nice to each other.
Weird, man.
I don't really.
It's weird.
It is weird. I don't know if I have like an opinion one way or the other, if it's good or bad. I just think it's fun that like both these coaches are actually talking about each other, just and like making this a matchup to watch and like pay attention to. Because when Kenny Payne was there, it was just like it doesn't matter what Kenny Payne says. It's just he could talk crap about Cal or he could praise him. It's just it wouldn't matter. No one really cared. So I do find it interesting that both of them are trying to buddy up with each other. We'll see what actually happens when they take the floor here on Saturday and see if we can actually get some guys to be mean to each other a little bit. I don't know if we'll see any bloody eyes or anything. But Louisville's got some decent players. We'll get more into the actual scouting report later. But yeah, I don't think you're going to have to inject any energy or juice into any of the players or coaching staff on either side. I think they all understand. You even had Edwards, I think was his name for Louisville.
Right now, that was my favorite storyline of it all.
What was his name? Just so I get it. Is it Terrence Edwards?
Terrence Edwards Jr., who at the time,
second leading scorer for the team.
At the time was a really massive get for Louisville. There's always the first. Like for Kentucky, it was Amari Williams. It was somebody has to dive in head first with this program. Who's it going to be?
Yeah.
When you get a coaching change of that magnitude. For Pat Kelsey, he brings 2 guys with him from Charleston, but it's like, you expect some holdovers there, guys to follow along. Who's going to be the first guy to dive in head first with the ACC program? Hey, I trust your vision at Louisville coming from where I came from. And to get Terrence Edwards to start with, that was a pretty massive get for him.
Yeah.
Sunbelt Player of the Year, led James Madison to a 32-win season. They upset Wisconsin in the NCAA tournament.
He's a veteran player.
It was a really, really, really big get for him. And you have to understand the magnitude of the get there because he was asked about just what does he know about the Louisville UK rivalry, the meaning behind all that. He said, this big rivalry game, all of us committed for this game. Some of us came here just to play against Kentucky. You know what I'm saying? That was a big part of it, to live up in that rivalry and try to be a part of some history.
Love it.
He said his first time ever arriving on campus, there was a U of L fan that came up to him and said, I don't care if you lose every single game while you are a member of the University of Louisville basketball program.
Please
except the Kentucky game. Just beat Kentucky and you are in good graces with us. So we joke about the everybody Super Bowl thing.
The aggression will come
crap.
out. The aggression will come out on both sides. I think when the ball is actually tipped, they're going to say everything that, and a lot of it is they've never done this before. None of these guys. I think Louisville has maybe one player who's actually played in this rivalry before. Travis Perry and Trent Noah grew up around it, but they've never actually played in it. They just don't really know what to expect. I think as part of it. Pope has obviously played in it as his own, but he says he's not really trying to share any stories, like you said. And to be honest, how much do these kids want to hear about what the Kentucky-Louisville rivalry was like in 1998, or 96? Like, they're not really going to care about that. But it'll all come out on the floor. I expect some dust-ups. I expect Kerr to be yelling at people from the sidelines.
Is Kerr going to just, throw a crutch?
I think.
Is he going to, what is going to be the holy crap moment of this game where we go, there we go, Kentucky rivalry's back?
When Kerr Kriisa gets his technical early in the second half is when it's going to really spark. That's my hot take for this game, is that Kerr gets a technical somehow from the bench. But I think Jackson Robinson, Amari Williams, these are guys that I can see. Maybe Louisville tries to poke at him a little bit, and they poke a little bit back. I can see that happen. It'll take
we saw what happened when we got Clash Peters. A couple games ago.
It usually works out for Kentucky.
This team's got some stuff to them.
Yeah, and the Louisville players are actually going to be acceptable basketball players, unlike Clash Peters, who was
a bum, who remains a bum,
who was not very good at basketball. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you will see the intensity of this game really come out once they actually take the floor. It'll take a little bit, though. I think there will be some nerves all around on both sides and in the entire arena. I think just because of how unique this situation is, where you've got two brand new coaches on both sides. They're all just like being super super nice to each other, and it's a little bit weird.
Man, it's weird. You have Pat Kelsey on one side who says, that is my national coach of the year. If you ask me, Mark Pope is. He said that this is the best Kentucky team he has seen in the last 10 years. So I don't know if that's like a shot at Cal or if it's like more just doubling down on how impressive what Mark Pope has done with this roster. So
10 years ago was still 2015, but
good point.
Yeah,
but that's a pretty massive thing to say about the guy that you're about to be taking on. Saying, I love that guy. He's incredible at what he does. And you have today, we just listened to Mark Pope. We sat there and listened to him talk about how he loves Pat Kelsey. He says, I'm supposed to hate these guys.
A terrific team with massive upside.
A terrific
is what he called
team.
It, is what he said about Louisville.
Read the full, whatever the
let's see
top
here.
quote is from it.
Well, he kind of highlights all their players. He's Louisville has a couple of their BYU guys, Noah Waterman, who actually plays, and Ali Khalifa, who is not playing. But yeah, he says it's a terrific team with massive upside, very dangerous. The way he phrased it though makes it seem like he knows that everything kind of needs to go right for them. He said on any given night, when all the pieces come together, they can be a really, really dangerous team. That's part of it.
I agree with that.
And if you want to, we can kind of go ahead and get into the fact that Louisville, top 10 team in the country in shooting three-pointers, bottom 10 team in the country in making three-pointers, which is just such an incredible discrepancy from one to the other,
would say
where you're shooting 32 a game and making 27%.
Takers, but not a lot of shot makers, I guess.
Stephen Peake turned around for that one. His ears perked up. His PTSD, I think, was setting in when you mentioned that. But, yeah, they've got plenty of shot makers. My goodness. Shot takers. They have plenty of shot takers. Yeah, not too many makers. So that is a very weird – and they're actually a very, very good two-point shooting team, top 10 in the country in two-point shooting. But guess what? They don't take many two-pointers. I don't know where this team is getting their points from. They're just not generating enough offense to end up scoring.
They've taken 4 losses, so they're not. That
is true. But they've had a tough. If we're going to give them some credit, I'll pull up their roster or their schedule here. Losses to Tennessee, Oklahoma, Mississippi, Duke. That's 4 top 50 KenPom teams. You've got wins over Indiana and West Virginia.
All 4 of those teams are now ranked in the AP Top 25, I believe.
There you go. Indiana and West Virginia, 2 top 50 KenPom wins. That West Virginia game was in overtime. West Virginia beat Gonzaga. Kentucky beat Gonzaga, so the correlation there maybe doesn't work in Louisville's favor. But so they've played a good schedule. They will be prepared for this game, but they're 0-3 against SEC teams, and they generally don't perform very well against any of these SEC teams. Like a 5-point loss to Oklahoma, but you lose by over 20 to Mississippi, over 20 to Tennessee. Some of those games were at their home too, so now you're going into Rupp Arena where. I am so excited for the crowd on Saturday. I think it's going to be awesome. I think Matt even mentioned on the radio this morning, but a 5 o'clock game on a Saturday when kids still haven't left yet, you've still got all the students here. Holidays are around, so you got people in town. It's just going to be such an awesome atmosphere. You're going to get maybe a lot more people that normally can't go to games or be able to save their money and chill out for this game. But back to Louisville's just overall approach to the game, that, like I said, they will shoot a bunch of threes, and that's kind of my only worry in this one is that if they get hot and make 15 threes, it could be tough for Kentucky to overcome that, especially if Kentucky doesn't counter with at least 10 threes of their own. But the most that they've made in the season is 12, and they lost that game to Duke. So even when they are hitting threes, they're still not necessarily pulling out wins. And they're really they only have a handful of players. They've been decimated by injuries, if we're being honest. They're out 3 guys. One of their guys prior, who recently got injured, he's their 3rd leading scorer, something like that. He's gone. He was their Kirk Kriisa.
He's the pulse guy. He's
gone.
Energy guy. Yeah.
So it's going to be you have to have a couple of guys kind of have big nights. Chucky Hepburn is a guy that I think will probably just have to. That's where the Lamont issue comes in, because that kid is actually pretty good. He's not just like a steals merchant on the other end. He's actually a legitimately decent defender. So that'll be interesting to see, especially if Lamont can't go. But so there's a lot to dislike about Louisville's chances in this one.
Yeah. So they're out without Abracadabra Traore, I don't know. He has a broken left arm. Kashawn Pryor,
not that far off from his name, actually.
Is They're kind of just the
and Corey
energy
Johnson.
guy, the excitement guy. He tore his ACL, and then backup point guard Corey Johnson had shoulder surgery. And then Ali Khalifa, we knew going in that he was going to be out for the year. He had a torn ACL, had to surgically repair it this offseason, so that was part of the reason why he didn't follow Mark Pope to Kentucky. He was kind of the straw stirrer, if you will, he was Amari Williams.
He's the best passer
today.
Best passing big man in the country. I think that's probably not like a hot take to say.
Yeah, he's incredible in one very specific area and pretty terrible at everything else. But that part is what it is.
If you work in the system that fits you, it'll be okay. So,
but that is the name of the game with this Louisville team. Is it a hot take to say that they are a not as deep, less talented version of this Kentucky team? They have a very similar style.
There's a lot of similarities.
Kind of same, very well coached, kind of same gritty guys taken from some mid-majors and, kind of the same chip on their shoulder approach, just not as talented, and they are absolutely shorthanded in the worst way with injuries. And I think that's why you get a 10.5-point opening spread in favor of Kentucky.
Yeah, the similarities are definitely, offensively especially, like they want to play fast, they want to shoot a lot of threes. Like their average length of possession is 16.4 seconds. Kentucky's is 15.3. Both of those are top 50-ish marks, or or Louisville's at least the top 100 mark. So they want to play fast, they want to get the ball up and down. They kind of live by the layups or threes approach as well. But that's kind of where the similarities ends. Like it's kind of is like just a less talented version of Kentucky, and that's kind of I think why you're seeing Ken Palm give UK a 85% chance and the spread being 10.5. Which does that give you any indication about Lamont's status? Because we still got a we don't know answer from Pope.
That. And I want to pull up the exact quote from Pope.
Yeah, because he went back and forth. He kind of said both.
We talked about it a little bit afterward. I think there were two totally different
answers
that he gave that could make you feel like if you read it one way, you would feel with absolute confidence that he's playing. But if you just chose to read it the other direction, you would say with absolute confidence he wasn't playing. So we'll just give the full quote to get the full context behind it. Lamont was on the court a little yesterday. He didn't do anything with us, but he was on the court a little bit yesterday, and we'll kind of see how it goes today. We'll try to roll him out there. I'd love to have him. It really helps us. I just don't know if he's going to be quite ready.
But does ready mean he's playing? Or is we're going to try to roll him out there mean that he's playing? It's one of those.
Was that just?
Or is he coach speaking his way? Because he even kind of said the same thing after the Colgate game.
He kind of gave this little wink where it was like.
After the Colgate game, he said that
have him out there.
He was playing. He was practicing. He pretty much said the exact same thing after the Colgate game, and it doesn't look like anything's really changed over the last 2 days in terms of, like they said, he's on the court but he's not practicing. Like he's doing light work and stuff. So I don't know. Honestly, I'm kind of leaning on the out. Like on that side of the fence, I don't know what you're leaning.
I'm leaning in. If you're going
Jack's leaning in.
If you're going to take one side of it, I'm going to take the opposite.
I like it
because it is such a.
Well, let's talk then. If Lamont plays, how do you think it plays out for Kentucky then?
If Lamont plays, I think it turns into a 25-point bloodbath. Like I truly think that this is a chance for Kentucky to get its feel-good game against a name-brand opponent. Like I think that's what it was supposed to be against Colgate. They started out that way. If you just played the first 5 minutes of the game, you would think that was how it would unfold, and then they let off the gas and kind of started looking ahead and playing on the back burner a little bit. But I think the feel good is going to come from this one if Lamont plays. And look, I'll just be transparent. He was at shoot-around, participated at shoot-around at Gonzaga, was close enough to be a true down-to-the-wire game-time decision against Gonzaga. And when you, like I said earlier, when you make the call to sit him in that one, it does have that, okay, we're doing this to save him for down the road, knowing that we're going to need him in some of these upcoming games. We'll just, if we got to punt on this game, it is what it is. But we know that Louisville is a week away. You want to get him back to full strength. But what really works in Kentucky's favor, I think, is the gap in these games where you get this one. Then they don't play again until the following Saturday, a full week of rest from there. And then after that one, you get another 10-day break.
That's a crazy gap.
If Lamont is going to be at 85%, you still get him for whatever he can get, and then he can rest and rehab and, get back to the training room and work his way back to 100% in a full week off. It's not like we got to respond and play again on Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah. He gets a full week of rest, and then even more important, he'll get 10 days off for the holidays after that. So we're talking a pretty massive break from here to get it right for the SEC play. And then if he doesn't want to play against Brown, who cares? Whatever. That's why I think he plays. If he was close enough to be a game-time decision, and I've heard that that decision was made with the intention of being ready for Louisville, I just don't know how a guy of Lamont Butler's stature and mindset and killer instinct, the winner of all winners, would sit out this match. You only get one shot for this UK U of L rivalry. I just don't think there's any chance that he sits this one out.
Yeah, personality-wise, it definitely seems like Lamont's the guy that would try and, even if he's at like 85 or 90%, would try and tough this one out. It might just come down to a battle between him and whatever doctors or training staff is saying, hey, you could go, but it's like, man, you got 7 more days off if you don't. We're going to New York next weekend. Let's just maybe take it easy for this one. This decision might be a little bit easier if Travis Perry had maybe hit a couple of those threes against the Colgate game.
Man. Yeah.
That maybe makes it you can swallow that decision a little bit easier to maybe think, you know what, we're confident giving Travis Perry 7, 8, 9 minutes against Louisville because we know that, Travis Perry's going to play hard. I think you know that about him every single time, especially against Louisville, he'll play hard. But if he can make threes, then you're like, okay, we can trust him to take a little bit of a break off from Jackson because you can't play Jackson for 40 minutes at point guard, and you can't play him for probably 30 minutes at point guard. He probably needs to be closer to like 20 or 25, and then maybe share it a little bit the rest of the way. And Pope's emphasized this a lot too, like, there's not necessarily a point guard because a lot of it will still just kind of flow through Amari Williams and Brandon Garrison, and then they just love to work the ball around. There's almost so many actions that you're going to get into your offense kind of no matter who the point guard is. What it matters is on the defensive end because Travis Perry is not even close to the defender that Lamont. No one on Kentucky is close. Maybe Ortega is like maybe 75% of the on-ball defender that Lamont Butler is. That's where you would have wanted to have him against Colgate, and you probably just stopped them from coming down and kind of casually, lazing their way into.
He's the tone setter. Like
exactly.
He would
the point of
be the guy
attack
like,
defender.
Hey, what are we doing? Like, are we going to let these scrubs?
And you want him on Chucky.
Yeah.
You want him to guard Chucky because he's probably Louisville's best player. I've only seen a couple of their games,
even close.
But I would assume he's kind of their go-to guy. He does both. He plays on both ends. He's like a decent shooter and scorer. Doesn't take as many shots as I thought he would, but he's their guy that stirs their drink. So if you've got Lamont guarding him, like you said, Jack, 20 plus, I mean, it wouldn't be like a shock. But if he doesn't go, then I think you're going to look at a game where maybe it'll be similar to Colgate, actually, where the entire second half is just Kentucky like waiting to like make their move, and then eventually they do, and then the game ends up being an 11-point win, but maybe in the second half they were up 18 for a lot of it, and it was kind of close in the first half. Like that's more, I actually see maybe a similar outcome to what happened in Colgate with Louisville if Lamont can't go. But if he can go, I do think that, it's because Lamont only plays 22 minutes a game, which kind of shocked me, actually. He really doesn't play that much, so you're not asking him to go out there and play 38 minutes against Louisville. You're asking him to come in and play half the game and just play lockdown defense on Chucky, get yourself in your pick and roll, and be effective how he was maybe in the couple games before that he got removed. So, a lot of it still comes down to Lamont if he plays or not, but it also doesn't because Kentucky is just still clearly the better team.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think there was some gamesmanship, for sure, with Mark Pope because of the two totally. And he had another quote later on in the press conference where he was asked about the point guard position, where it was like, okay, well, if Lamont isn't able to go, do you trust Travis? Do you trust Jackson? How would you kind of feel with Ortega running the ship? And then he ended that sentence with, but I really hope Lamont's able to go.
Yeah.
He kind of circled back and was like, hey.
He said that after the Colgate game, too. Said the exact same thing.
Just so you know, I'm not totally ruling him out. I think he plays. I just don't.
The 10-point spread kind of, it pushes me in that way that maybe, he is going to play, but I don't know. There's a lot of gamesmanship going on.
Even if it's.
And that's the thing. Like I said, he doesn't need to play 40. Just has to play enough.
Yeah, and I trust Travis to play 5, But if you have to throw him in and have it be a 15, 20-minute type of situation. Like, if that's where you start getting into trouble, and I think he'll play. I think it's a waste of oxygen to even talk about the scenario of what that wouldn't look like, because I think he's going to play. Before we kind of start working toward closing this thing out, let's pay some bills. Club Blue is the official collective partner of the University of Kentucky. Club Blue was founded by UK fans strictly to support the NIL efforts at the University of Kentucky. Unlike most collectives, 100% of subscriber money and 100% of donor money goes directly to NIL. Club Blue charges no fees. Club Blue subscribers receive some amazing benefits like invitations to special events, meet and greets with UK athletes, signed merchandise, monthly giveaways, ticket giveaways, Club Blue merch, and more. Subscribe today at www.clubbluenil.com. You get to pick which sport you want to support. When you sign up, choose your sport and support with Club Blue. Also very excited to, what about my guys at Wonder Fan? You ever heard of Wonder Fan?
Because of you, yes.
See, look at him. I appreciate him. Wonder Fan.
Before I hadn't, seriously.
Is the absolute best. If you are going to a game, there's no excuse to not be with our friends at Wonder Fan. Wonder Fan is a first-of-its-kind basketball arena rewards app where fans earn real rewards simply by cheering for their favorite team. It's literally the easiest thing on the planet. All you need to do is head to the App Store to download the app, check in once you're at the game, and let your earnings grow. It's that easy. During each game you attend, you'll earn in the background once you press start. You show up, you sit down in your seat, and you go, boop, and you start earning. It's crazy. Once you have enough earnings, you can redeem for gift cards to your favorite brands like Fanatics, Dick's, Lululemon, StubHub, Home Depot, and many more. There's even ticket giveaways and fun contests you can use. Your points to enter. New rewards are added weekly. Right now, users will get 50 free Wonder just for signing up. That'll score you a $10 off Fanatics code, Zach. I don't know if you like your guys at Fanatics.
I love $10 off.
A chance to win tickets to the national championship, so you'll get to go see your Kentucky Wildcats in person. Plus, we have a special deal for listeners on this show after signing up. Head to your profile page and redeem code KSR for an additional 40 free Wonder. Again, that's code KSR. Head to the App Store, search Wonder Fan. That's WUNDERFAN. And start being paid for your fan loyalty.
Put this guy in the spelling bee. My goodness.
And royalty. Wonder Fan. It pays to be a fan. And while we're while we're just yapping here, game time. I'm really excited at this. Give me your best guesstimate of get-in cost for Saturday's game.
Ooh. For a lower level ticket? Or
give me lower level and upper level, and I will share with you both with our friends at Game Time.
I bet a decent lower level ticket for the Louisville game is $150 minimum, and I'd say a decent upper level ticket is $75 minimum.
You can get mid-court, smack dab in the second level, all-in value of $223 a pop. I think those are excellent tickets. That's our Game Time picks there. You can
mid-court.
Get $181. There's a ton of great value there. But if we're talking lower level, they're pretty hard to come by, Zach. I'll be totally honest. The tickets are very,
150
very
was probably a very low number, actually,
but
now that I'm saying it.
But you can get some pretty solid seats down low. If you want to drop a pretty penny, Section 11, Row W, $284 a pop.
Okay.
But look, when you're talking
I messed that up, didn't I?
This excitement, you got to be there, man. I mean, the crowds have been awesome. BBN has been at its absolute peak. I know you've been there. Being there with Game Time is so much more valuable, especially in a game like we're going to see on Saturday.
I love it. Can I introduce a new? Do you have another ad you need to do?
I need to finish this, but
just, go for it.
Use Game Time and its new feature called Game Time Picks. I just showed you some of the examples to make your life even easier, filtering out the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. All-in prices. Toggling this feature shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. I don't know about you, but I absolutely hate when you get the surprise fees.
That's my least favorite thing about Ticketmaster, yes.
At the very end. We don't talk about our competitors on this show.
Oh, sorry.
seat views. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy the lowest price guarantee. Or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code KSR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code KSR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
Who's in the house tonight? Go. Do you need to take a sip of your drink after that? That was a long-winded segment there. Yeah. Well, here, can I introduce a new segment?
Sure.
I'm going to call this one Steven's Submissions. So Steven Peak over there has sent in a couple of fan-generated questions. By fan-generated, I mean from his own brain. The first question, which honestly, both of these are kind of funny. St. John's does not play on Saturday.
Holy crap.
Will Rick Pitino be the Y?
Bro, could you imagine?
Would that burn down the whole building?
Could you imagine? Like, seeing
Could he do that, though?
Does he have bitterness of the Louisville fan base after Big Blue Madness was already just such a joy. Like, they were so unfathomably pissed. Just seeing him in the UK pullover with the UK logo on his chest. We should have known. We should have known. If he ever had a shot at coming back in our good graces, to hell with him. I've never seen such animosity directed toward one man in my entire life, other than we were the ones directing it toward that man when he was at Louisville. But, hey, you know what? Full circle moment. It's a circle of life here with UK fandom. If he were to turn that opportunity around and follow it up with this game and coming out,
it would be awesome. And, yeah, the Louisville fans on Twitter would be absolutely melting down. There's no chance that happens, though. I mean, there's no way, right? I did kind of say that for the Big Blue Madness thing. I was like, no way he comes out. But then he came out. This would be a little bit – this is almost like – you want to talk about, you know, how he flipped off the UK fans? This would be flipping off every single Louisville fan that's ever – that he's ever come into contact with by being the Y.
He should especially go out there if UK and flip off the Louisville fans as the – like to
well, imagine
really
if UK's up 25 points and Rick Pitino comes out as the Y or whatever it is. You know, when do they usually do the Y? Is it – what's the break?
It's
kind of early on.
It's the first break of the second half.
Of the second half. So Kentucky could easily be up by 15 points at that point, and then you bring out Rick Pitino to be the Y. Would be pretty amazing.
Holy crap.
Second question. Something I didn't even realize. Louisville has not beat Kentucky in Rupp since 2007. Stephen asks, why should I be nervous?
You shouldn't.
Well, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. Yeah, I didn't realize it had been that long, actually, since they won of Rupp. But I guess it makes sense because Cal kind of had his number for, since 2009.
I'm literally working on a post called 5 Reasons Why Kentucky Will Beat Louisville Again.
Well, give them to me. Well, don't spoil your whole article, but give me a couple.
But we've talked a lot about it. But it does just have that vibe, right, Zach, of where is the path to an upset? Like, what would that look like?
15 made three-pointers.
That's my only caveat to any of this is when you have two rapid-firing, shot-taking teams. Kentucky has made significantly more than Louisville, but both have definitely been, more takers than makers.
Shout out.
Louisville definitely being one of the top worst in college basketball. But when you have that much volume, we saw what happened in the first half against Duke with Louisville. If they do make shots, it can kind of turn into an uneasy, queasy kind of feel of, if they keep this up, we might be in trouble. So that's the one caveat to all of this is if you're looking at the pure numbers, if you're looking at the talent, if you're looking at the depth, if you're looking at just the, all of it. There's nothing favorite. I take Mark Pope over Pat. I don't love Pat Kelsey.
You're already here first.
I respect him, and I think he's a very, very talented coach, and I think Louisville is in good hands long term, not in the short term, because they are just kind of screwed with injuries. But there is just so much playing against Louisville that I just don't see an avenue for an upset. I don't even know what that would look like unless they do just hit 18 threes and you just go tip of the cap. That's just sometimes it's a make or miss league, and you just sometimes happen to make them. Outside of that, I just don't know what else you would even lean on to get some type of optimism. And that's also assuming that Kentucky doesn't make shots either.
Yeah. And, they've got one guy, his name is, let me get his name right, Ryan Smith, or R-E-Y-N-E. I don't know if you say that. Would you say that, Ryan, you think? R-E-Y-N?
There's only one Ryan in my life, and it's Ryan Howard.
Ryan Howard, and that's spelled non-traditional as well. But he shoots 9 threes a game, and he hits them at a 37% clip. So if that guy comes out and hits 5 or 6 throughout the whole game, maybe that's a concern, something you try and take away. But like we saw, with Kobe Bray, he hits half of Kentucky's threes. You got to get production from someone else, and I don't see Louisville having enough guys come out and hit enough threes to make up for, if Smith doesn't hit 5 threes, they're not going to have anyone else that I think comes in and is able to do that and really put pressure on Kentucky. So it shouldn't be much of an issue. We keep talking about those, so I don't want to jinx myself too bad. That's why I'm taking the more cautious approach and acting as if Butler's not going to play and that we might have to have some more Travis Perry minutes and it'll be close at halftime and things like that. Like I do see a world where all of that kind of plays out like that, and then Kentucky just kind of cruises down the stretch, and it's maybe the final score isn't really indicative of what actually happened. But the only path I see for Louisville is they just got to hit a lot of threes. But at the same time, they're going to play so fast that they're going to give Kentucky just as many opportunities to hit as many threes. So
that's kind of
if you're going shot for shot, it's just not going to work out in their favor at all because Kentucky's going to win that game every single time.
Another factor, this is Louisville's first true road game of the season as well. We saw what happened when Kentucky had its first true road game of the season down at Clemson. That leads to some emotions, and that leads to some, makes you feel some type of way. I looked up the home attendance for the Yum Center all season long. Remember, they're giving tickets away at Planet Fitness and Costco. Just an embarrassment in terms of fan support. Be better, Card Nation. But 12,000 fans at the Morehead State game.
Oh my goodness!
17,000 fans. Again, this is a 22,000 person arena. 17,000 against Tennessee. Couldn't even sell that one out. 12,000 against Bellarmine. 12,000 against Winthrop. 12.7 thousand against Ole Miss. 15,000 against Duke. You couldn't even sell out against Duke. And then 11,000 against UTEP. This team has never seen what is about to hit them in the face.
Well, those neutral court games were like real small gyms, weren't they, too?
Yeah, I've been in those gyms when Kentucky went down to the Bahamas. The gym is this big.
They have veterans, though, who have played in these sort of games. A lot of mid-major guys who've been to the tournament before.
Ball game, though,
it is.
Man. I mean, when you have Rupp Arena, as Mark Pope said today, he went out of his way to say that, like, Rupp Arena's been sold out at its peak against Colgate. Colgate. Yeah. The crowd at Colgate was bigger than anything the Yum Center has seen all season long. Imagine what the vibe is going to be when there's something at stake here. Local bragging rights. It's going to go to a whole different planet. This is the first real statement opportunity for the fan base this season. We've seen them show out loud and proud down in Atlanta at the Champions Classic. We saw the 20% be really, really strong in Seattle for the Gonzaga game, and even there was some pockets of fans for the Clemson game. We got a Go Big Blue down there. BBN has done its part, but this is their first chance for that massive FU moment. That's what I'm excited for. And I just don't think that Louisville is going to be prepared for that type of setting and atmosphere, and I think the nerves are going to hit.
Will we see the players throw some elbows down, you think, after a big 3 or 2? Or?
Is it a day that ends in Y? Absolutely, and they deserve to.
I want them to buy into that part.
And I want Louisville fans to go, rent-free, rent-free, rent-free. We will continue to do it because we know it just gets under your little skin, just like the horns down for Texas fans for whatever reason.
It is soft.
You're soft. You're soft. You always will be soft. And I'm excited for another opportunity to throw the L's down. One thing I will say, Mark Pope, in this type of setting, do you remember when he told the BYU students to not do the horns down?
You can't do that here.
You can't do that here.
I think he knows better, though.
Embrace it, and I think there's a reason why.
He threw the L's down over the summer. Remember that?
Ooh, good point.
When they did their trip to build the houses and stuff like that, I think.
Greets, yeah.
Yeah. He did it with fans.
That is a very good point.
He's no dummy. He knows.
He's a very smart man. We're still waiting for his first misstep as the head coach in terms of PR moves, and he certainly has not made one of those as of yet. Zach, let's get out of here with a final game prediction. What are you feeling? Do we have one more thing?
That's a question from YouTube. How many Pat Kelseys can you all jump over in running shoes?
Ooh. Like if an Olympic long
I mean, if
jump,
I'm being funny, at least like 45, I'd say.
Pat Kelsey's?
In reality, it's probably one. I could probably jump over one full Pat Kelsey. A full-grown Pat Kelsey.
Long ways or sideways?
Well, I guess it's how many
Lincoln Logs?
Well, yeah, not like a. Well, yeah. Are we doing the long jump, or are we doing like a straight vertical, or like maybe get a run up and you jump over him?
Long jump, and Pat Kelsey's laying on the ground like Lincoln Logs. How many Pat Kelsey's side by
like Lincoln Logs?
Are you able to do?
I should probably look up what the Olympic world record for that is, because I'm sure I'll say like 6 feet longer than what it actually is. I'll just say one. I could do one. He's what, like 4'6"? I'd say I could probably jump over him.
No, I said we're going sideways, like Lincoln Logs.
Okay. Oh, okay. So that's what you meant by Lincoln Logs. Well, I mean, how wide is he?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. I could put you down there, and I could jump over 6 of you. I'm sure.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
okay.
I feel like 7 is a good number. 6 is a good number. 6.
I'll put the over at 6.5, and we'll make sure we throw him out there in the middle of the court for the Y.
If the score extends past 25 points, I need a UK fan to go lift him up, put him in midcourt, and I'm jumping over him. I'll come down from the rafters.
Throw him over your shoulder like a Santa's Christmas bag sack. Go from there.
All right. Let's get out of here. Score prediction for this one. What do you think we're going to get inside Reparee?
I believe I officially went 81-71 Cats.
Has that been posted yet?
I don't think it's been posted, but that is my official score prediction there on. I
think I said
on KSR.
I think I said 89-73. I believe is what I said. So 89-73. It's going to be a 16-point victory inside a Rep Arena for the Cats to move to 10-1 on the season.
Yeah, one of their better starts since, what is it, Steven? Best start since when would be 10-1?
2014, 15?
2011-12.
But they have to win at Ohio State to get to their first.
Okay, yeah. So if you win the next 2 games, you got your best start in 15 years. Well, aside from the one, that started off undefeated and then got the L there.
Not
at the
too
end.
bad. But I do enjoy that.
Pretty good. I like that
2011-12 stat. That's a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun, Zach. Thanks for joining me. This is a lot of fun. Get the fancy light and the backdrop of the beautiful KSR characters. Nice. I believe I had Matt behind me, and you had Ryan Lemon's beautiful face behind you. So we looked the part.
Our friends
had to do it big for the Louisville game. Hopefully, the players respond in such a way that we can celebrate a big one. What would be Sunday, maybe Saturday night. We'll see what the vibe is, but we'll definitely do a post-game recap of that one, hopefully celebrating another big victory for the Kentucky Wildcats. We will see you then.